Aries Lagna, Blank Chart Predictions, Part 1. House-based issues and lifelong themes. Houses 1 to 4. First house, Aries itself, the embodied warrior. As the Lagna, Aries signifies the body, identity, and psychological impulse to act. Ruled by Mars, the first house gives the Aries native a natural urge to lead, initiate, and take risks. The body tends to be lean, muscular, or athletic. Temperamentally, you are fiery, restless, and direct. With this strong Mars influence, there's immense vitality and assertiveness, but when misdirected, it can turn to aggression or rash decisions. Mental overstimulation, impatience, and a tendency to act first, think later become central karmic patterns. This house activates at ages 1, 13, 25, 37, etc., often marking identity resets or physical transformations. Second house, Taurus, the battlefield of speech values. Taurus here brings Venusian energy into the house of resources, speech, and self-worth. The Aries native values comfort and security, but ironically, your aggressive approach often destabilizes the very peace you seek. You may experience impulsive spending, fluctuating financial values, or rough, abrupt speech patterns. The clash between Mars, ruler of Lagna, and Venus, ruler of Second, means that wealth must be earned with discipline and restraint. You speak with power, but the tone may unintentionally offend. This house becomes especially active at ages 2, 14, 26, 38, where wealth, family issues, or questions of value dominate. Third house, Gemini, the fighter's toolkit of skills and siblings. Gemini in the third house grants a sharp, clever, and tactically gifted intelligence. Aries rising natives often develop strong skills in communication, marketing, or media, especially when they learn to channel their fiery boldness into strategic messaging. However, Mercury ruling this house is an enemy of Mars, so conflicts with siblings or miscommunication are common, particularly in childhood. There is potential for courage and daring, but when Mars overpowers Mercury, it creates short-sighted action instead of clever initiative. This house activates at ages 3, 15, 27, 39, and these ages often reveal your signature style of courage or spark crises in relationships with peers. Fourth house, Cancer, emotional restlessness and the longing for home. Cancer here brings the moon's emotionality into the house of mother, home, and inner security. But Mars, ruling Aries, is debilitated in Cancer, leading to deep restlessness in domestic life. Aries natives may long for emotional grounding, but feel frustrated by the need for nurturing or perceived emotional dependence. This results in tension with mother figures or frequent changes in residence. Emotional security becomes a lifelong search, especially when the moon is afflicted. You may build homes and abandon them, seek comfort, but react explosively to emotional triggers. This house activates at ages 4, 16, 28, 40, and these years often mark key shifts in family life, psychological patterning, or emotional healing. Aries Lagna, Blank Chart Predictions, Part 2. House-based issues and lifelong themes, houses 5 to 8. Fifth house, Leo, the pride of creation and the struggle with control. Leo in the fifth house brings the sun's radiant energy into matters of children, creativity, intelligence, and romance. Aries rising individuals tend to be proud of their ideas and may express strong leadership in artistic or educational settings. The Sun and Mars are friendly, so this placement gives confidence in one's abilities, but also a strong desire for control in romantic relationships or over one's children. If afflicted, there may be ego clashes or problems related to childbirth. The drive to create or perform may be intense, but it must be balanced with humility. This house activates at ages 5, 17, 29, 41, and these years highlight themes of performance, recognition, and love affairs. Sixth house, Virgo, the battlefield of precision, conflict, and service. Virgo here brings Mercury's analytical focus to the house of health, enemies, daily work, and discipline. Aries rising natives tend to face persistent problems with coworkers, health routines, or critical thinking. Mars and Mercury being natural enemies, this combination often creates tension, bold action conflicts with analytical restraint. This can show as scattered routines, health flare-ups due to overexertion, or sharp verbal conflicts in the workplace. However, with conscious effort, the native can master problem-solving, discipline, and a service mindset. This house activates at ages 6, 18, 30, 42, where stress, health habits, or work reorientation may dominate. Seventh house, Libra, the dance of desire and discontent in partnerships. Libra brings Venusian grace to the house of committed relationships, but as Mars and Venus are natural opposites, this house becomes a zone of friction. Aries rising people often attract partners who are refined, balanced, or passive, qualities that contrast their fiery nature. There is often restlessness in marriage, frequent clashes, or unmet expectations. The individual may struggle to balance personal independence with the demands of partnership. If Venus is afflicted, relationships may feel transactional or lack emotional nourishment. This house activates at ages 7, 19, 31, 43, typically marking key turning points in romantic life, business alliances, or public roles. 8th house, Scorpio, the inner volcano of power, pain, and transformation. Scorpio, ruled by Mars and Ketu, intensifies the mystery of the 8th house. Aries Lagna natives are not strangers to crisis, and this placement makes them confront hidden fears, sudden losses, or deep psychological transformation. There may be a fascination with the occult, death, or subjects others find taboo. Because Mars rules both the 1st and 8th, the native may take risks with their body or life force. Inheritances, partners' resources, or sexual intimacy may carry intensity, secrecy, or volatility. This house activates at ages 8, 20, 32, 44, bringing events that often shake their world and push them into rebirth. Aries Lagna, Blank Chart Predictions, Part 3. House-based issues and lifelong themes, houses 9 to 12, 9th house Sagittarius, the flame of faith, fortune, and father figures. Sagittarius in the 9th house brings Jupiter's expansive dharmic influence to higher learning, philosophy, and destiny. Aries rising individuals are often guided by inner conviction and may gravitate towards spiritual or philosophical frameworks early in life. Mars and Jupiter are friends, so this house brings support for long-distance travel, advanced studies, and religious or ethical causes. However, there can also be overzealous belief systems or clashes with father figures and mentors. Faith is earned through challenge, not blind following. This house activates at ages 9, 21, 33, 45, often signaling a shift in worldview, spiritual belief, or karmic reward. 10th house, Capricorn, duty, drive, and the ascent toward power. Capricorn, ruled by Saturn, sits in the 10th house of karma and profession. Though Saturn and Mars are enemies, this placement compels the Aries Lagna native to pursue structured ambition. The individual wants success, but often feels restricted by rules or delayed recognition. With time, however, they develop endurance and command in public roles. Work may involve systems, government, land, or law enforcement. If Saturn is strong, professional success is steady and impactful. If weak, there may be a struggle with authority or chronic dissatisfaction with one's career. This house activates at ages 10, 22, 34, 46, marking major career milestones and societal visibility. 11th house, Aquarius, disruptive gains, eccentric circles, and visionary desires. Aquarius brings Saturn-Rahu's combined energy into the house of desires, gains, and networks. Aries rising natives may attract unconventional or highly intellectual friends, but may also feel like outsiders in groups. The influence of Rahu adds innovation and craving, while Saturn introduces delays or disappointment. They may pursue large-scale goals or humanitarian visions, but struggle to feel truly aligned with social circles. Gains come unexpectedly through unorthodox paths, often after struggle. This house activates at ages 11, 23, 35, 47, often revealing patterns in friendships, mass appeal, or material fulfillment. 12th house, Pisces, solitude, sacrifice, and the subconscious sea. Pisces, ruled by Jupiter and co-ruled by Ketu, offers spiritual depth to the house of loss, retreat, and liberation. Aries natives with this placement carry a hidden longing to escape from the worldly fire they carry. They may experience foreign travel, detachment, vivid dreams, or spiritual awakening. This house brings karmic undoing, but also moksha. If Jupiter is strong, the native may benefit through spiritual practices or institutions. If afflicted, escapism, addictions, or loss of direction may emerge. This house activates at ages 12, 24, 36, 48, and brings phases of withdrawal, emotional dissolution, or profound inner growth. Leo Lagna, Blank Chart Predictions, Part 1. House-based issues and lifelong themes, houses 1 to 4. First house, Leo itself, the radiant monarch and core identity. Leo rising brings the sun's fixed fire energy into the ascendant, giving the native a striking presence, regal bearing, and a strong desire for recognition. As the royal sign ruled by the brightest planet, Leo natives often exude authority and expect to be seen, respected, and followed. One jungle, one lion. The sun, as both the Lagna lord and the significator of the Atma soul, makes the sense of identity sharply defined, sometimes to the point of self-centeredness. If afflicted, the native may display more bravado than actual courage, especially when the sun is debilitated, as in the third house, Libra. Activation years 1, 13, 25, 37 often bring identity-defining events involving leadership, ego battles, or public visibility. Second house, Virgo, precise speech and analytical resource management. Virgo in the second house brings Mercury's earthy, detail-oriented energy into speech, values, family, and finance. Leo Lagna natives are articulate and methodical with money matters, though sometimes overly critical in tone. The combination of the sun's grandeur with Mercury's precision can make them excellent orators, teachers, or managers of systems. They may also experience financial growth through communication, commerce, or education-related fields. However, if Mercury is afflicted, speech may become cutting, and financial stability may be hampered by overanalysis. Activation years 2, 14, 26, 38 bring changes in wealth patterns, family dynamics, or key communications shaping their values. Third house, Libra, artistic siblings and struggles for shared space. Libra in the third house brings Venus's balanced aesthetic nature to communication, courage, and sibling relationships. For Leo Lagna, the sun, Lagna Lord, is debilitated here, creating a karmic challenge in asserting oneself among peers or siblings. The native may find it hard to make room for others, leading to rivalry or issues of personal space and acknowledgement. Siblings might be refined or artistic, but the Leo may struggle to collaborate or share attention. There is charm in speech and a flair for writing or diplomacy, but if ego interferes, this placement can bring disharmony in close circles. Activation years 3, 15, 27, 39 often mark shifts in communication style, creative output, or relationships with younger siblings. Fourth house, Scorpio, intense inner world and protective home instincts. Scorpio in the fourth house adds Mars and Ketu's transformative emotional energy to home, mother, and psychological foundation. Leo rising individuals may experience deep emotional intensity at home, either through a powerful mother figure, emotional power struggles in the household, or a need to control their personal space. Mars, the sun's friend, rules this house and the ninth as well, linking property, home security, and spiritual fortune. These natives may invest in land or real estate, but also tend to keep emotional wounds or domestic issues private. Activation years 4, 16, 28, 40 bring real estate decisions, family upheavals, or periods of intense internal emotional transformation. Leo Lagna Blank Chart Predictions Part 2. House-based issues and lifelong themes, houses 5 to 8. Fifth house, Sagittarius, inspired creativity and philosophical children. Sagittarius in the fifth house brings Jupiter's expansive, optimistic, and moral nature into the domains of creativity, children, and personal intelligence. For Leo Lagna, this fosters a natural flair for creative self-expression infused with idealism, righteousness, or a spiritual tone. The native may be drawn to teaching, philosophy, or religious storytelling, and often wishes to pass these values on to children. Jupiter, the significator of progeny, rules both the fifth and eighth houses here. While this adds philosophical depth to the native's intelligence, it also links children to the house of death or loss, suggesting either delayed childbirth, emotional detachment from children, or karmic burdens through them. However, Sagittarius being Jupiter's mul Trikona softens the difficulty more than Pisces in the eighth. Activation years 5, 17, 29, 41 bring experiences of mentorship, romantic awakenings, or karmic events related to offspring. Sixth house, Capricorn, dutiful labor and cold conflict resolution. Capricorn in the sixth house brings Saturn's cold, disciplined, and structured energy to daily work, health, and conflicts. Saturn is an enemy to the sun, and its rulership over both the sixth and seventh houses for Leo Lagna creates ongoing tension in both relationships and routines. The native is hardworking, but may feel burdened by daily responsibilities. They often engage with adversaries who are powerful, slow-moving, or bureaucratic in nature. Health issues may involve bones, joints, or chronic fatigue if Saturn is afflicted. Though strategic and stoic in handling conflict, Leo Lagna may find themselves isolated in workplace politics or drained by legal entanglements. Activation years 6, 18, 30, 42 often bring karmic balancing through legal, health, or service-oriented crises. 7th house, Aquarius, detached partners and power conflicts in marriage. Aquarius in the 7th house puts Saturn, the dimmest and coldest planet, opposite the Sun, the brightest and warmest, amplifying the natural enmity between these two grahas. Leo Lagna individuals tend to dominate relationships, often attracting partners who are aloof, intellectual, or resistant to emotional dependency. With Saturn ruling both the 7th, relationships, and 6th enemies, marital life can be fraught with power struggles, delayed unions, or karmic separations. The native may desire control in relationships, while the partner seeks independence, creating a persistent friction. This setup also creates vulnerability to public criticism or separations due to ego clashes. Activation years 7, 19, 31, 43 highlight major shifts in partnerships, including marriage, business alliances, or separation. 8th house, Pisces, mystical depth and emotional transformation. Pisces in the 8th house places Jupiter's spiritual, watery nature into the realm of secrets, death, rebirth, and deep emotional fusion. While the connection between the 5th, Sagittarius, and 8th, Pisces, via Jupiter, gives Leo Lagna individuals mystical intelligence and a subconscious interest in metaphysics or the occult, it also links children and creativity to hidden karmas. The native may go through intense emotional transformations, especially around intimacy, inheritance, or shared wealth. This placement can also suggest a sense of detachment in deep relationships unless Jupiter is well placed. Emotional resilience is built through spiritual exploration. Activation years 8, 20, 32, 44 often bring sudden gains or losses, psychological upheaval, or shifts in emotional identity. Leo Lagna, Blank Chart Predictions Part 3. House-based issues and lifelong themes, houses 9 to 12. 9th house, Aries, fiery faith and independent Dharma. Aries in the 9th house brings Mars's bold, pioneering energy into the realm of higher wisdom, father figures, and fortune. Mars is a friend of the Sun and rules both the 4th and 9th houses for Leo Lagna, creating a dynamic link between the emotional foundation, home, and spiritual direction, Dharma. This often manifests as strong belief in one's own moral compass and a desire to lead or reform spiritual or philosophical systems. The native may clash with traditional doctrines, preferring independent inquiry or physical acts of devotion, like martial arts, adventure, or activism. The father is likely to be influential, assertive, or even aggressive, especially if Mars is strongly placed. Activation years 9, 21, 33, 45 highlight long-distance travel, interactions with mentors or father figures, or defining one's ethical and life path convictions. 10th house, Taurus, steady karma and prestige through stability. Taurus in the 10th house brings Venus's earthy, refined influence into the sphere of profession, public image, and karma. Though Venus is neutral to the Sun, this placement creates career paths rooted in aesthetics, finance, design, or leadership within institutions that value tradition and beauty. Leo Lagna individuals with this placement may pursue recognition through architecture, luxury goods, law, or social organization. The native desires stability and honor in their work, and while their public persona may be commanding, the inner motivation is often comfort, security, and admiration. If Venus is afflicted, there may be professional stagnation or dependence on external validation. Activation years 10, 22, 34, 46 mark moments of career consolidation, material success, or value-driven public leadership. 11th house, Gemini, intelligent networks and strategic gains. Gemini in the 11th house brings Mercury's quick intellectual energy into the domain of gains, friendships, and larger ambitions. For Leo Lagna, this results in strategic thinking when it comes to earning rewards or aligning with influential social circles. The native is skilled in communication, networking, and using ideas to build alliances. Gains often come from writing, teaching, or technology-related endeavors. Friendships may be light and numerous rather than deeply intimate, and the native thrives in dynamic environments with mental stimulation. If Mercury is afflicted, There can be gossip, shallow associations, or confusion in long-term goals. Activation years 11, 23, 35, 47 amplify material rewards, public support, or breakthroughs through collective influence. 12th house, Cancer, emotional retreat and subconscious vulnerability. Cancer in the 12th house places the moon, Leo Lagna's natural 12th lord, in charge of foreign travel, subconscious tendencies, loss, and moksha. Since Cancer is the natural home of the moon, this placement brings strong emotional undercurrents into the hidden layers of the psyche. Leo natives may experience waves of retreat, needing time alone to process overwhelming feelings. Sleep, imagination, and dream life are particularly active and meaningful. There is a karmic link between emotional vulnerability and spiritual evolution. However, excessive emotional withdrawal may also result in escapism, financial leakage, or passivity in the face of emotional overload. Activation years 12, 24, 36, 48 mark turning points in spiritual surrender, foreign connections, psychological healing, or karmic closure. Sagittarius Lagna, Blank Chart Predictions Part 1. House-based issues and lifelong themes. Houses 1 to 4. First house, Sagittarius itself, the idealistic archer and fearless seeker. Sagittarius rising is ruled by Jupiter, the guru among planets, infusing the native with a philosophical temperament, high ideals, and a forward-moving, quest-driven life orientation. This Lagna symbolizes the bow, always aimed upward, and represents a soul constantly striving for spiritual truth, justice, and broader understanding. Jupiter, being the enemy of none, allows Sagittarians to prevail over enemies not through conflict alone, but often by winning them over or outgrowing their opposition. These natives have an innate moral compass and often possess natural optimism, charisma, and competitive spirit, especially evident in education, spirituality, and sports. Activation years 1, 13, 25, 37 often bring significant changes in life direction, identity shifts, or new journeys driven by truth-seeking. Second house, Capricorn, blunt speech and financial extremes. Capricorn in the second house brings Saturn's restrained, practical influence into speech, family, and finances. For Sagittarius Lagna, this creates blunt, direct communication, sometimes too honest for comfort, especially since Jupiter, the Lagna lord, is debilitated here. Speech may lack diplomacy, and the native may be perceived as tactless, despite good intentions. Financially, they may struggle with excessive generosity or a tendency to overspend due to Jupiter's charitable nature and Saturn's pressure to conserve. This mix often results in swings between giving freely and feeling restricted. Activation years 2, 14, 26, 38 bring karmic themes around money, speech, or family legacy that require grounded handling and responsibility. Third house, Aquarius, bold thinkers with rebellious siblings. Aquarius in the third house introduces Saturn and Rahu's unconventional intellectual nature into communication, courage, and sibling dynamics. Sagittarius natives are usually strong-willed communicators who enjoy pushing intellectual boundaries. Their thoughts and writing are original, sometimes rebellious or progressive. They may have siblings who are unusual, eccentric, or distant, especially due to Saturn's rulership and detachment. There's a tendency to pursue unique skills or intellectual trades, often in science, philosophy, or humanitarian fields. This house also adds a persistent drive for self-improvement through skill building. Activation years 3, 15, 27, 39 highlight communications breakthroughs, media involvement, or karmic tensions with close peers. Fourth house Pisces, idealistic roots and spiritualized home life. Pisces in the fourth house brings Jupiter's mystical, imaginative energy to the realm of home, emotions, and psychological roots. For Sagittarius Lagna, this creates a home environment that is sensitive, spiritual, and sometimes escapist. The native may be deeply attached to their mother or seek emotional security through devotion, meditation, or nature. Because the fourth lord is also the Lagna lord, there's a strong connection between inner happiness and personal evolution. This combination supports contentment from spiritual practice and solitude. Activation years 4, 16, 28, 40 bring deep emotional realizations, shifts in residence, or transformation in familial dynamics that push the native towards soulful living. Sagittarius Lagna, Blank Chart Predictions Part 2. House-based issues and lifelong themes. Houses 5 to 8. Fifth house, Aries, bold creativity and fiery children. Aries in the fifth house places Mars, an aggressive, action-oriented graha, into the domain of creativity, intelligence, romance, and progeny. For Sagittarius Lagna, this brings dynamic expression, passionate love affairs, and highly energetic or strong-willed children. Mars rules both the 5th and 12th houses here, but because Aries is its Mula Trikona sign, 5th house matters, like progeny, dominate over losses associated with the 12th. This creates an assertive romantic style and a powerful creative drive, often expressed in physical forms like sport, performance, or bold leadership. Children may bring joy, but also challenges related to willpower and discipline. Activation years 5, 17, 29, 41 bring new opportunities in love, education, or artistic output, often accompanied by strong karmic or physical action. Dar 6th house, Taurus, stubborn enemies and practical health management. Taurus in the 6th house places Venus in charge of illness, debts, and disputes. Venus, being the enemy of Jupiter, brings friction here, particularly in emotional eating, sensual overindulgence, or passive resistance in workplace environments. For Sagittarius Lagna, Venus also rules the 11th house, meaning friends and enemies can easily switch roles. The native may encounter charming but manipulative opponents or fall into cycles of pleasure-seeking that undermine physical health. On the positive side, Taurus provides a steady approach to daily routines, allowing long-term improvements in diet, money management, or work-life balance. Activation years 6, 18, 30, 42 often bring karmic conflicts, financial rebalancing, or health-related changes that test inner discipline. 7th house, Gemini, intellectual partners and dual relationship paths. Gemini in the 7th house places Mercury, the planet of intelligence, trade, and communication, over marriage, partnerships, and public interactions. Sagittarius Lagna natives are drawn to mentally stimulating, witty, and adaptable partners. However, since Mercury rules both the 7th and 10th houses here, relationships often intertwine with career, sometimes creating imbalances in either or both domains. Mercury's dual nature can cause fluctuations in marriage, with the native vacillating between romantic ideals and critical thinking. Dual careers and multiple partnerships are not uncommon, especially if Mercury is strong and unafflicted. Activation years 7, 19, 31, 43 bring critical relationship turning points, legal agreements, or shifts in how the native balances love with logic. 8th house, Cancer, emotional depth and karmic vulnerability. Cancer in the 8th house brings the moon's sensitive, fluctuating energy into the sphere of secrets, loss, sexuality, and transformation. For Sagittarius Lagna, this suggests intense emotional undercurrents, karmic inheritance from maternal lines, and a profound need for security that's rarely admitted outwardly. The moon here makes the native highly intuitive, but also emotionally reactive during crises. Mars and moon being opposites adds to the volatility. There's a constant tug between action and emotion, logic and instinct. Health may be impacted by stress or hormonal imbalances, and the native often undergoes inner rebirths driven by emotional crises. Activation years 8, 20, 32, 44 bring events tied to inheritance, psychological exposure, intimacy, or spiritual breakthrough through suffering. Sagittarius Lagna, Blank Chart Predictions Part 3. House-based issues and lifelong themes, houses 9 to 12. 9th house, Leo, majestic beliefs and father-centered Dharma. Leo in the 9th house places the sun, the sole and sovereign planet, as lord of fortune, faith, and long-distance travel. For Sagittarius Lagna, already inclined toward philosophy and higher learning, this reinforces a bold, radiant spiritual identity. The native may have a strong moral code, admire authority figures, or become one, and view their father as either a guiding light or dominant presence. Since the Sun and Jupiter are mutual friends, this placement supports spiritual integrity and recognition as a teacher, guru, or leader. However, the native must guard against arrogance in belief or excessive moral posturing. With the Sun exalted in Aries, 5th house, the pursuit of knowledge blends naturally with creativity and self-expression. Activation years 9, 21, 33, 45 bring travel, mentorship, or dharmic crossroads that elevate both vision and status. 10th house, Virgo, practical karma and service-based careers. Virgo in the 10th house brings Mercury's analytical, skill-driven nature into the professional sphere. Sagittarius Lagna natives tend to excel in roles requiring communication, precision, and intellect, often combining dual careers, public teaching, counseling, or writing. Mercury's rulership of both the 7th and 10th houses links career with partnerships, meaning business alliances or spousal influence often shape public life. However, since Mercury is neutral to Jupiter, this arrangement can create overthinking or perfectionism in career decisions, especially if afflicted. Career growth comes steadily through technical mastery or informational leadership. Activation years 10, 22, 34, 46 mark peaks in public recognition, shifts in authority, or realignments in vocation based on mental clarity and intellectual reinvention. 11th house, Libra, social grace and diplomatic gains. Libra in the 11th house introduces Venus's harmonizing, aesthetic energy into the domain of income, ambition, and social networks. Sagittarius Lagna individuals tend to be well-liked in communities and may gain through art, beauty, diplomacy, or partnerships. However, since Venus is also lord of the 6th house of enemies and disease, some friendships may become competitive, passive-aggressive, or turn into hidden enmities over time. There's often a karmic lesson in learning how to balance charm with discernment. If Venus is afflicted or involved in indulgent behaviors, financial waste or excessive pleasure-seeking through social avenues may emerge. Activation years 11, 23, 35, 47 bring highs or crises in gains, group influence, or ambition fulfillment through relational intelligence. 12th house, Scorpio, subconscious intensity and hidden strength. Scorpio in the 12th house places Mars, the Lagna lord of the 6th sign, into the arena of sleep, losses, isolation, and moksha. This is a deep, karmic placement that brings hidden battles, powerful dreams, and a complex inner life. Sagittarius natives with this setup may be drawn to the occult, tantra, or esoteric paths, especially through private study or crisis-induced awakening. Mars ruling the 5th, intelligence, and 12th, liberation, allows for potent intuitive or psychic gifts, particularly when creatively or spiritually channeled. However, it also suggests karmic expenditure through intense sexual or emotional experiences. If poorly placed, Mars here may result in restless sleep, self-sabotage, or forced solitude. Activation years 12, 24, 36, 48 bring spiritual reckoning, foreign travel, or cycles of loss that push the native inward toward transformation and eventual transcendence.